In the heart of Okibo village, where the trees were tall and the rivers whispered secrets, lived a brave hunter named Shola. His skin was dark like the fertile soil after rain, and his eyes shone with courage. Every morning, he tied his leather belt around his waist, placed his spear in hand, and wore a red-dyed cloth wrapped neatly around his waist, leaving his chest bare so he could move swiftly through the thick forest. His sandals were made from soft goat hide, perfect for silent footsteps. Shola's hut was small but strong, made from wooden poles, mud walls, and a roof of palm leaves, just like all the other houses in the village. Smoke from the cooking fire curled into the air, and his neighbors often admired how tidy his compound was. But Shola was not an ordinary man. He had a gift. He could hear the whispers of the forest, where animals hid, where water flowed deep, and sometimes he thought the forest spoke to him of things beyond human eyes. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in orange and purple, Shola heard a strange cry coming from the dense part of the forest. He paused, gripping his spear tightly. The sound was soft, like the cry of a frightened child, but it carried the melody of a woman's voice. Shola followed the sound with careful steps, moving under the shadows of the tall iroko and mahogany trees. His heart beat fast, but he did not fear. Hunters like him were taught to face the unknown, to respect it, and sometimes to act boldly. Soon he saw her, a woman sitting near the riverbank, her hands bound by thick vines. Her skin glowed under the last rays of sunlight, and her long black hair fell over her shoulders like a waterfall of silk. She wore a white cloth wrapped around her chest and waist, simple but elegant, and beads adorned her wrists and ankles. Shola had never seen beauty like hers. Her eyes, dark as midnight, looked at him with a mixture of fear and hope. "Please," she said softly, her voice trembling like a gentle river. "Help me, they will not leave me alone." Shola did not hesitate. With a few swift movements, he cut the vines and lifted her to her feet. She was light, almost weightless, and he felt a strange warmth run through his chest. She did not speak much, only nodded gratefully, her eyes never leaving his face. They walked back to his village as the forest grew dark. The moon rose slowly, silvering the leaves, and Shola felt the presence of unseen spirits around them. He did not fear them. He had always respected the spirits. But tonight, something told him that this woman was not ordinary. Yet, the fear was small compared to the joy of rescuing her. When they reached his hut, he offered her water in a clay pot and a small mat to sit on, while he tended the fire. She smiled, faint but warm, and said her name was Kike. "Thank you, Shola," she said. "I do not know how I can repay you." Shola shook his head. "You are safe now. That is enough." Morning broke over Okibo village, and the sun painted the mud huts with golden light. Birds sang in the trees, and smoke from cooking fires drifted lazily into the sky. Shola awoke to the sound of Kike humming softly as she swept the compound with a broom made from dried palm leaves. She wore a green wrapper tied around her waist, and a simple cloth covered her chest. Beads jingled softly on her ankles as she moved, and her hair was tied in neat braids that glistened under the sunlight. Shola watched her quietly, feeling a mixture of admiration and unease. Something about Kike's calmness seemed almost too perfect, like a river that flows without ripples. He shook off the feeling and called out, "Kike, would you like some food before I leave for the forest?" Kike smiled, her eyes shining. "Yes, please, Shola. I can help with breakfast if you wish." As they prepared yam porridge and roasted fish over the fire, neighbors began to gather outside Shola's compound. News traveled fast in Okibo, and everyone was curious about the stranger Shola had brought home. Children peeked from behind their mother's skirts, and elders whispered among themselves. "Who is she, Shola?" asked Mama Aya, a kindly old woman whose hut was next door. "She looks too perfect, too different." Shola frowned slightly. "I found her in the forest. She was in danger. That is all. You need not worry." But the villagers whispered more, noting the way Kike walked and how quiet she was. Some said she had the aura of a spirit. Some said nothing at all, only stared in awe. Kike noticed the eyes on her and bowed politely. Her hands pressed together in greeting. "I mean no harm," she said softly. "I am grateful to Shola." Throughout the day, Shola returned to his hunting preparations. He sharpened his spear, checked his traps, and tied extra ropes around his shoulders. He would leave early tomorrow to hunt in the deeper forest. Yet he could not stop thinking about Kike. That night, when the moon rose high and the village lay silent except for the crickets, Shola awoke to a strange sight. Kike was standing outside, her form stretched and dark, almost like a shadow under the moonlight. Her eyes glowed faintly, and she seemed to float above the ground. "Kike!" Shola whispered, heart pounding. She turned to him, her face returning to its human beauty. "Shola, you must not be afraid," she said. "There is a part of me that you do not yet understand." Shola swallowed hard. "What do you mean? What are you?" Kike stepped closer, her voice gentle but heavy. "I am not entirely of your world. I belong to the spirits of the forest. Each night I return to them. They have given me life, but they also ask for what is precious in return." Shola's hands trembled. Fear and love warred in his chest. He had saved her, and now he realized she carried a secret that could destroy him, or bind him forever. "I trust you, Kike," he said quietly. "Tell me what I must do." Kike shook her head, her face sad. "It is not yet time. You must rest. But know this, Shola. Loving me will not be simple." Shola woke early the next morning. The air smelled of wet earth and smoke from nearby kitchens. Chickens clucked in the compounds, and children ran barefoot over the mud paths, chasing one another in laughter. But Shola's mind was heavy with the memory of Kike's words the night before. He went to check his traps at the edge of the forest, wearing his brown leather vest over a white cotton shirt, his red cloth tied around his waist, and sandals that made almost no sound on the soft soil. Kike followed quietly, carrying a small woven basket of food she had prepared for him. "Shola," she said softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves. "I dreamt of you last night. The forest spoke to me of danger, but also of love." Shola paused, looking at her. "You dream of the forest?" he asked. "Do the spirits speak to you in your sleep?" Kike nodded. "Yes, but not everything is meant for humans to understand. I fear the forest knows more than even I can tell." They walked deeper into the woods, the sun climbing higher and scattering gold over the green leaves. Birds flew overhead, their wings flashing white and black. Shola felt both calm and uneasy. He had always trusted the forest, but with Kike by his side, he sensed the invisible eyes watching, judging. That night, as Shola slept on his woven mat, he dreamed a strange dream. He saw Kike standing by the river, her hair flowing like black water. Her eyes glowed red, and her mouth opened, revealing a darkness that seemed to pull at him. He tried to run, but the forest twisted around him, and he felt his strength leaving him. When he woke, sweat dripped down his forehead. Kike was sitting across from him, her green wrapper draped elegantly, beads clinking softly with her movements. "You had a dream," she asked, her voice gentle but serious. Shola nodded. Yes, it felt real. I saw you, but not as you are. Your eyes, they were red. Your mouth dark. Kike looked down, her fingers tracing patterns in the dust of the floor. I warned you, Shola. There is a part of me that feeds on life. It is not evil, but it is how I exist. You must know this before it is too late. Shola's heart sank. Love and fear mixed in his chest. He had saved her, had given her a home, and now he realized that his life might be in her hands. But still he could not hate her. Her gentle hands, her soft smile, the way she swept the hut with care, all spoke of someone he had grown to cherish. I will not leave you, he said firmly. Even if it means danger. Kike looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. Then you must prepare, Shola. The forest has already marked you. Soon you will see what it means to love a spirit. The wind blew through the trees outside, carrying the scent of wet earth and unknown flowers. Shola felt the forest closing in around him, yet he held on to the warmth of Kike's presence. He did not yet know the sacrifices that awaited, or the deception that hid behind her beauty, but he knew one thing clearly. He loved her, and he could not turn away. The sun had barely dipped behind the hills of Okibo village when Shola finished his hunting for the day. He returned with a wild antelope, its blood still fresh, and carried it proudly through the village paths. His red-dyed cloth was stained from the hunt, and beads of sweat dotted his forehead. Children ran to greet him, and elders nodded in approval, praising his skill. Inside his mud and palm leaf hut, Kike prepared the antelope for cooking. She wore a yellow wrapper wrapped neatly around her waist, a white cloth over her chest, and small beaded bracelets jingled as she moved. Shola watched her from the doorway, marveling at her grace. Her movements were smooth, almost as if she glided rather than walked. That night, after they had eaten, Shola lay down on his woven mat. Kike sat near the fire, her face bathed in orange light. Shadows flickered across the walls, and the wind whispered secrets through the gaps in the palm roof. As the moon climbed high, Shola awoke to a cold breeze brushing his skin. The hut was silent except for the crackling fire. He sat up, his heart racing, and saw Kike standing in the corner, her body shifting like smoke, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Kike, he whispered, fear tightening his chest. She turned slowly. Her human form returned, her face calm and gentle. Do not be afraid, Shola. This is who I am each night. I return to the spirits. They need my presence, and in their world I cannot lie. Shola swallowed hard. But your life, and mine. I feel my strength leaving me whenever you are like that. Kike approached him, kneeling beside his mat. I do not wish to harm you, Shola. But this is my nature. Each night I must return to them, or I would lose myself completely. You are part of the price of my freedom. Shola's mind spun. He had fallen in love with her, yet now he saw the danger clearly. Then what do I do? How can I protect myself without hurting you? Kike's eyes softened. There is no easy answer. Love and danger walk together with me. If you choose to love me fully, you must accept the risk. Or, you can leave now before it is too late. Shola shook his head. I cannot leave you. I saved you from the forest. I cannot abandon you to it now. Kike reached out, placing a hand on his chest. He felt warmth, life, and a strange energy flowing between them. Then you must be strong, Shola. Stronger than you have ever been. The night passed slowly, and Shola could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kike's shadow form hovering over him, her dark, ethereal body moving like a silent river. He felt life ebbing from him, yet he also felt love deep in his heart. By dawn, Kike returned fully to her human form. She knelt by the fire, washing the leftover dishes. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "you will see more. But remember, Shola, love me, and you embrace the forest's power as well as its danger." Shola nodded, a mixture of fear, resolve, and devotion in his chest. He dressed in his brown leather vest and red cloth, ready to face the day. He dressed carefully in his brown leather vest, red cloth around his waist, and tied his sandals made from goat hide. Kike had prepared porridge and roasted yam for him, her green wrapper bright in the morning sunlight, beads jingling softly as she moved. She handed him a clay cup of water, her eyes serious. "Shola," she said, her voice calm, "the forest has ways of speaking to those it favors. You may feel more than usual now because of me. Pay attention to the signs." Shola nodded, uncertain what she meant, but he trusted her. He picked up his spear and left the village, Kike following silently. The forest greeted him with familiar sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a hornbill, and the trickle of a hidden stream. But today he noticed something strange. Animal tracks that had always been clear now twisted unnaturally. Birds circled overhead in patterns he could not recognize. A gentle breeze carried whispers, almost like words, but he could not understand them. "Kike," he said quietly, "what is happening? I feel strange." She stopped and looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. "The forest responds to spirits, Shola. My presence awakens things you cannot see. You must be careful." They reached a clearing where a large baobab tree stood, its trunk wide and strong roots tangled in the earth like a sleeping giant. Kike stepped forward, her hands raised slightly. The wind shifted, and Shola felt a tingling on his skin, as if the forest itself was alive and watching them. "The spirits are testing you," Kike said softly. "They know your heart, your courage. But they also know your fear." Shola gripped his spear tightly. "I am not afraid," he said, though his voice shook slightly. Kike smiled faintly. "You will be someday. But for now, observe. Learn. The forest and I are not enemies, but neither are we harmless." As they left the clearing, Shola noticed small things that had never caught his attention before. The way the shadows bent strangely around Kike, the way leaves seemed to part for her as she walked, and the occasional soft glow that trailed behind her in the dim light. By the time they returned to the village, Shola's mind was filled with questions. At the hut, Kike prepared dinner while he sat on the woven mat, thinking. "Kike," he asked finally, "if the spirits need you and you need them, then what am I to you? Am I part of this world between yours and mine?" Kike paused, her hands on the clay pot. "Yes, Shola, you are part of it now. Loving me binds you to the forest and the spirits. That is why I warned you before. You cannot turn back." Shola felt the weight of her words. Love had led him to Kike, but now he saw that it came with a price far beyond his understanding. Yet, deep in his heart, he knew he would not abandon her. As night fell, the moon rising pale over the huts, Shola watched Kike transform once again into her shadowy form. He felt life leaving him slowly, but he also felt something stronger, a determination to love her, to protect her, and to survive the dangers of the unseen world. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Okibo village, casting golden light on the mud walls and palm-thatched roofs. Shola awoke with a heaviness in his chest, the memory of Kike's shadowy form still vivid in his mind. He dressed quickly in his red cloth and leather vest, tying his sandals tightly before stepping outside. The village was alive. Smoke spiraled from cooking fires. Children ran barefoot along the dusty paths, and women in colorful wrappers carried baskets of yams, peppers, and fresh fish. But Shola's mind was not on the usual bustle. His thoughts were on Kike, the woman he loved, and the spirit he did not fully understand. As he walked toward the forest edge to check his traps, Elder Ife approached him. The elder wore a long dark blue robe with white embroidery and a string of sacred beads around his neck. His eyes, clouded with age, were sharp as ever. "Shola," Elder Ife said, voice low but firm, "I have watched you. You bring home a woman from the forest, and the winds speak her name. The spirits whisper of danger. You must be careful." Shola bowed respectfully. "Elder, she is kind and gentle. She saved my heart before I even knew her. She is different, yes, but she means no harm." The elder's eyes narrowed. Spirits do not wear the masks of humans for kindness. They wear them for their own purposes. She may love you, but love and danger walk together. Beware the shadows, Shola. Not all that glows is light. Shola's heart raced, but he nodded. "I will be careful, Elder." The elder touched his shoulder. "Trust the forest, but trust your senses more. Watch her at night. The forest teaches those who listen, but it punishes those who are blind." Shola spent the day checking traps, sharpening his spear, and thinking of the elder's warning. By evening, he returned to his hut, the memory of Kike's nightly transformations pressing on his mind. That night, as the moon rose high, Shola sat on his mat, watching the fire flicker. Kike moved silently near the cooking area, her yellow wrapper glowing softly in the firelight. He noticed the faint shadows around her, twisting like smoke. "Kike," he asked cautiously, "do the elders know more than we do? Is there a way to protect myself from what you are?" Kike turned slowly, her eyes serious. "There are ways, Shola. Some are simple, some are hard. But even the strongest hunter cannot fight the spirits alone. You must be clever, brave, and patient. Love will be your guide, but it will not shield you completely." Shola felt a mix of determination and fear. "Then I will learn. I will not turn away from you, Kike. I will face whatever comes." Kike smiled faintly, kneeling by his mat. "I do not wish to take your life, Shola. But soon the forest will demand a choice. You must be ready." Outside, the wind rustled through the palm leaves, carrying the whispers of unseen spirits. Shola lay down that night, his heart heavy but resolute. He knew that the days ahead would test his courage, his love, and the very strength of his life. The morning sun rose slowly over Okibo village, spilling light over the mud huts and palm rooftops. Shola woke with a lingering unease in his chest. The elder's words and Kike's nightly transformations weighed on him. Today he would hunt deeper into the forest than ever before. He dressed quickly, tying his red-dyed cloth around his waist, strapping his leather quiver and spear, and slipping into his soft goat-hide sandals. Kike handed him a small woven basket of food, her green wrapper bright in the morning light, beads jingling softly as she moved. Her eyes were serious, almost sad. "Shola," she said, "today may test you more than any hunt before. The spirits are near. Remember what I told you. Courage and cleverness must walk together." Shola nodded. "I will remember, Kike. Do not worry about me." The forest welcomed him with its familiar sounds, rustling leaves, the calls of unseen birds, and the soft trickle of hidden streams. Yet, as he moved deeper, the trees seemed taller, their shadows darker. The wind whispered strangely, carrying words he could not understand. Suddenly, Shola heard a scream. It was sharp and filled with terror. He ran toward it, spear raised, and found a young deer trapped in a hunter's snare, struggling desperately. As he freed it, the ground shook slightly, and the shadows around him seemed to twist unnaturally. From the darkness a figure appeared. It was Kike. Her form was partially shadowed, her eyes glowing faintly red, her body almost flowing like smoke. Shola froze, but he remembered the elder's warning. Trust his senses. "Kike!" he called, trying to steady his voice. "What are you doing?" She spoke softly, almost a whisper carried by the wind. "I am testing you, Shola. The spirits have allowed me to show you part of my world. You must not fear it, but you must respect it." Shola gripped his spear tighter, feeling life ebbing slightly from his body. He remembered the dreams, the nightly transformations, the chilling feeling of her shadowy presence. But he also remembered his promise. He would not turn away. "I am not afraid," he said firmly, though his voice shook. "Show me, Kike. I will face it." Her shadowy form moved closer, swirling around him. He could feel the pull on his energy, the cold whisper brushing his chest. But he stood tall, remembering his hunting skills, moving carefully, watching every motion, trusting his instincts. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours. It was hard to tell. Slowly, Kike's shadow receded, her human form returning fully. She knelt by his side, her yellow wrapper glowing softly in the dim light, beads clinking. "You have passed the first test, Shola," she said gently. "You felt fear, yet you did not run. You allowed love to guide courage. That is why you are still here." Shola sank to the ground, exhausted but alive. He realized for the first time that loving Kike meant stepping into a world of shadows, danger, and mystery, but it also meant learning strength beyond what he ever knew. That evening, as they returned to the village, Shola walked silently beside her. Children played in the paths, smoke rose from cooking fires, and the village seemed peaceful. Yet he knew the forest and the spirits were always near, watching, waiting for the next test, and he felt ready to face whatever came, so long as Kike remained by his side. The sun rose over Okibo village with a soft orange glow, and the sounds of morning filled the air. Roosters crowing, women sweeping their compounds, and children laughing as they chased each other barefoot over the dusty paths. Shola awoke feeling stronger than the previous day. Yet the memory of the forest's test still lingered heavily in his chest. He dressed in his brown leather vest and red cloth, strapping his spear to his back, and went to check his traps. Kike followed quietly, her green wrapper tied neatly around her waist, beads jingling softly as she walked. Her eyes were calm, but Shola noticed a faint sadness in them. "Shola," she said softly, "you passed the first test, but love with me carries a cost. Each night I take a little of your strength. You may feel it now or in the days to come." Shola frowned, his heart tightening. "A cost? But I thought—" "You chose to love me," Kike interrupted gently. "And with that choice comes responsibility. Your life, your strength, even your very soul will be tested. The forest does not give freely, not even for love." Shola clenched his fists. "I do not regret my choice. I will endure it. Tell me, Kike, how do I prepare?" Kike reached out, placing a hand over his chest. He felt warmth and energy flowing between them. "You prepare by being brave, by trusting your heart, and by knowing when to listen. The spirits are patient, but they demand honesty and courage." That evening, Shola returned home to the mud and palm leaf hut. The village had settled into quiet, except for the occasional bark of a dog or the soft hum of a mother soothing her child. He sat on his woven mat, watching Kike move around the fire, her yellow wrapper glowing in the firelight, beads softly jingling with each motion. As midnight approached, Shola awoke to the familiar chill in the air. He felt life slipping from him as Kike's shadowy form returned. This time he was ready. "Kike," he said, steadying his breath. "I feel it, my strength leaving me. I will not run. Teach me, guide me." She hovered above him, her form dark and flowing, eyes glowing faintly red. "You must understand, Shola. I do not harm you out of malice. This is who I am. The forest gave me life, and your love keeps me tethered to this world. Without it, I am lost." Shola gritted his teeth. "Then I will give what is needed. I will not abandon you." For hours, he felt the pull of her power, the slow draining of his strength. But he also felt a deep connection to her, stronger than fear or pain. When the first light of dawn broke over the village, Kike returned to her human form. She knelt by the fire, her hands tracing patterns in the dust, beads softly clinking. "You endured well, Shola," she said, her voice soft. "You understand now. Love is never without sacrifice. You must choose every day to remain by my side." Shola nodded, exhausted but resolute. "I will choose you, Kike. Every day, no matter the cost." The sun climbed over Okibo village, casting long shadows across the mud huts and palm leaf roofs. Shola awoke feeling the familiar heaviness in his chest from the nights spent with Kike's shadowy form. He dressed quickly in his red cloth tied tightly around his waist, strapping his leather vest and spear, and stepped outside. Shola's instincts sharpened. He tightened his grip on his spear and moved toward the sound, Kike following silently behind him. Her green wrapper flowed lightly around her ankles, and her beads jingled softly, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon. They found a stranger standing near the village entrance. He was tall, dressed in worn leather, carrying a long sword strapped to his back. His face was hidden under a hood, but his presence radiated danger. "Who is this?" Shola whispered to Kike. "He is not here by chance," Kike replied softly, her voice tense. "The forest warned me. He seeks something or someone." Shola stepped forward, spear ready. "You have no business here," he called. "State your purpose or leave." The stranger laughed, a low, chilling sound. "I seek the hunter who has meddled in the affairs of the forest. I hear he has brought a spirit woman into his home. I wish to see if the tales are true." Shola's heart raced. Tales of hunters and spirit women were whispered in fear throughout the villages, but he had never thought he would face one himself. He glanced at Kike, whose eyes now glowed faintly in the sunlight, a silent warning. "You will not harm my village," Shola said firmly. "And you will not harm her." The stranger's gaze shifted to Kike. "Ah, the spirit woman. You are more beautiful than the stories said. But beauty comes with power, and power must be tested." Kike stepped forward, her form flickering slightly as if the wind carried shadows around her. "Leave or face the consequences," she said, her voice calm but carrying a force that made the stranger hesitate. Shola noticed the beads around her ankles glowing faintly in the sunlight, the forest itself seeming to lean toward her, whispering warnings. He tightened his grip on his spear. The stranger raised his sword, but before he could strike, Kike's shadow form surged behind her. It was dark, swirling, and almost alive. The air grew cold, and Shola felt a shiver run down his spine. Birds scattered into the sky, and the forest seemed to grow silent, watching. "You will leave now," Kike said firmly, "or you will face what you cannot fight." The stranger faltered, eyes wide with fear. Slowly, he lowered his sword. "This is not over," he muttered, backing away. He disappeared down the path, leaving the village in uneasy silence. Shola exhaled, his hands trembling. "Kike, you saved us." She returned to her human form, kneeling beside him. "I protect those I love, Shola. But the world beyond this village is dangerous. You must be ready, always." That night, as the village slept, Shola lay awake on his mat. He understood now that love with Kike was not only a test of courage and heart, but also a battle against forces he had never imagined. And he knew the forest and Kike would require all his strength in the days to come. The morning sun spilled over Okibo village, painting the mud huts and palm-thatched roofs in golden light. Shola awoke with a lingering sense of unease from the stranger's visit the day before. He dressed in his brown leather vest and red cloth, strapping his spear to his back, and stepped outside. Kike was already moving around the hut, her yellow wrapper glowing softly, beads jingling with each step. She carried a small clay pot of water, placing it by the doorway for Shola to wash. "Shola," she said quietly, "you have seen a glimpse of the dangers outside our village. But there is more you must know. You must understand who I am fully if you are to love me." Shola nodded, sitting on his woven mat. "Tell me, Kike. I am ready." Kike took a deep breath, her fingers tracing patterns on the clay floor. "Long ago, before I met you, I was a spirit of the forest, wandering between worlds. I was bound to serve the forest and protect its secrets. Humans rarely saw me, and those who did feared me." Shola leaned forward, listening intently. "But why come to me? Why take human form?" "I was lonely," Kike admitted, her eyes softening. "The spirits gave me life, but it was hollow without love. Then I saw you, brave and true, moving through the forest with respect for its creatures and its secrets. I could not resist the pull of your courage, your heart." Shola's chest tightened. "So all this, your shadow form, the nights, the tests, it is because of your nature?" Kike nodded. "Yes, I am part of both worlds. I feed from the energy of the one I love to maintain my form. It is not evil, but it is necessary. Without it, I would disappear into the spirit world, leaving you alone." Shola took her hands in his, feeling warmth and life. "I do not care what it takes. I will face it. I will love you, Kike, even if it costs me strength, fear, or life itself." Tears glimmered in Kike's eyes. "Your courage humbles me, Shola. Few humans could do what you do. Love a being like me fully, without turning away." They sat together as the sun climbed high, Kike preparing a simple meal while Shola watched. He felt a deep connection growing, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. He understood now that loving Kike meant embracing both the human and spirit worlds, a bond that would require every ounce of his courage and heart. That night, as the moon rose and the village slept, Shola watched Kike transform into her shadowy form again. This time he felt less fear, more understanding. He knew her past, her nature, and the sacrifices she had made to be with him. "Shola," she whispered, hovering above him, "you are part of my world now. Tomorrow will bring another test. You must be ready." "I am ready," Shola said firmly. "For love, for you, for whatever comes." The sun had barely risen over Okibo village when Shola awoke, still feeling the pull of Kike's shadow form from the previous night. His chest ached slightly, a reminder of the energy he had given her, yet his determination remained strong. Today he knew the forest would demand more. He dressed quickly, strapping on his red cloth and leather vest, tying his sandals tightly, and picking up his spear. Kike handed him a small woven basket of food, her green wrapper flowing around her ankles, beads jingling softly. Her eyes were serious, yet filled with quiet reassurance. "Shola," she said, "the spirits will come to test you. They may try to frighten you, confuse you, even tempt you to leave. You must remain steadfast. Courage and love will guide you." Shola nodded, gripping his spear tightly. "I am ready, Kike. I will not falter." They walked toward the forest together, the sunlight filtering through the tall palm trees and casting moving shadows on the forest floor. Birds called from the treetops, and small animals scurried through the underbrush. Yet Shola sensed something different today. The forest itself seemed alive in a way he had never felt. Suddenly, shadows lengthened around them. The air grew cold, and whispers rustled through the trees, words he could not understand. From the darkness emerged 3 spirits, their forms tall and twisted, faces obscured by swirling smoke. Their eyes glowed faintly, and they carried an aura of power and judgment. "Shola," Kike whispered, "this is the first challenge. Do not speak unless you must, and trust your heart." The spirits circled him, testing him with illusions. Glimpses of fear, shadows of death, and visions of Kike disappearing into the forest forever. Shola's hands trembled, but he remembered her words. Courage and love. "You cannot frighten me," Shola called, raising his spear. "I love her, and I will face whatever comes." The spirits paused, swirling around him, their forms flickering. One stepped forward, its voice like wind through dry leaves. "Do you truly understand what you choose, hunter? Love her and risk your strength, your life, your very soul." "I understand," Shola said firmly. "I accept it. I choose her every day, no matter the cost." Kike stepped forward, her human form glowing in the dim light. "See, spirits. This is the heart of a human who loves a spirit." The shadows shivered and dissipated slowly, leaving a soft wind that rustled the leaves. Shola's chest ached and his legs felt weak, but he remained standing. The first challenge had passed, but he knew more were coming. Kike knelt beside him, her yellow wrapper brushing the ground, beads softly clinking. "You have done well, Shola. But love with me is not a single test. It is a journey. Each night, each day, the spirits, the forest, and even humans may challenge you. You must remain vigilant and strong." Shola took her hand, feeling warmth and life flow between them. "I will endure, Kike. I will face all challenges. For you, for love, for us." Night fell over Okibo village, wrapping the mud and palm leaf huts in darkness. The wind whispered through the palm trees, carrying the scent of wet earth and smoke from cooking fires. Shola lay on his woven mat, trying to rest, but the memory of the spirit's challenge lingered. Kike moved silently near the fire, her yellow wrapper brushing the ground, beads clinking softly. As the moon rose high, she began to shift into her shadowy form. This time, the pull on Shola's energy was stronger, sharper, as if the forest itself demanded a test. Shola felt weakness in his limbs, a chill crawling over his skin. His heart pounded, yet he did not move away. He gritted his teeth, recalling the elder's warning and Kike's guidance. Courage and love would guide him. "Kike," he whispered, "I feel it stronger tonight. What do I do?" She hovered above him, her shadow form twisting like smoke. "Do not resist, Shola. Do not fight me. Accept it but remain aware. Your life is precious, and your heart must not waver." Hours passed. Shola felt his strength ebbing, the shadows of Kike's form swirling closer, almost touching his soul. Fear tried to grip him, visions of death and emptiness flashing in his mind. But love burned stronger, giving him the courage to endure. Then a sound came from outside the hut, a branch snapping sharply, like the approach of an unseen predator. Shola's instincts as a hunter surged. He grabbed his spear and peered into the darkness. The forest seemed alive, shifting unnaturally. Kike returned to her human form, kneeling beside him, beads softly jingling. "The spirits send a warning," she said quietly. "Tonight, danger is not only in me but outside the village as well. You must be ready to defend both yourself and those you love." Shola's eyes narrowed. "I will. I have survived the forest, faced spirits, and endured your shadow form. I can face anything now." Kike smiled faintly. "It is not just strength, Shola, but wisdom and courage together that will keep you safe. Remember that." Shola exhaled, relief washing over him. "I love you. I will face anything with you, but never again should one of us pay with life for the other." Kike smiled softly. "The spirit world respects your heart. From now on we walk together freely as partners, human and spirit side by side." Outside, the forest was calm, shadows retreating, and the wind whispered softly through the leaves. The villagers slept unaware of the events, while Shola and Kike sat together, hands entwined, hearts bound not by sacrifice, but by love, courage, and choice. The night passed peacefully, and the first light of dawn brought a new beginning, a life where both human and spirit could walk together, without fear, without sacrifice, guided by trust and love. The sun rose over Okibo village, spreading warm golden light across mud huts, palm-thatched roofs, and the dusty paths where children played barefoot. Shola stepped outside his hut, red cloth tied around his waist and leather vest snug, feeling a lightness in his chest he had not felt in many nights. Kike moved gracefully beside him, her yellow wrapper glowing softly, beads jingling with each step. She looked fully human now, free from the shadow that had once drained Shola's life. Yet, her eyes still held the depth of the spirit world, mysterious and beautiful. "The forest is calm today," Shola said, glancing toward the trees where sunlight dappled the ground. "No whispers, no shadows, just peace." Kike smiled, kneeling to place her hand on the small charm wrapped in red cloth and white beads. "The spirits have honored your courage, Shola. From now on we live together, not as hunter and spirit, but as partners bound by choice and love." Shola reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I will walk beside you, Kike, in the village and the forest. We face whatever comes together." The villagers went about their day, unaware of the trials Shola and Kike had endured. Children ran past, laughing, and women carried baskets of yams and peppers, their wrappers bright in the sun. The smell of cooking fires filled the air. Life seemed ordinary, yet Shola now understood the extraordinary balance between the seen and unseen world. In the evening, Shola and Kike sat outside their hut, the fire glowing softly, beads clinking, and the forest whispering quietly in the distance. Kike rested her head on Shola's shoulder. "We have survived shadows, tests, and dangers," she said softly. "Our bond is stronger now than fear or darkness could ever break." Shola nodded, feeling warmth spread through him. "Every trial taught me courage, every shadow taught me love, and every choice led me to you." The moon rose high, casting silver light over the village and forest. From the edge of the trees, the faint whispers of spirits seemed gentle, almost approving. The charm glowed softly on the ground, a symbol of their journey, courage, and the balance between human and spirit. That night, Shola slept peacefully for the first time in many weeks. Kike remained beside him, fully human, her presence a calm reminder of love that endured tests and sacrifices. The forest, the spirits, and the village were at harmony, watching over the hunter and the spirit woman who had dared to love across worlds. From that day forward, Shola and Kike walked together through the village and forest, hand in hand, facing every sunrise and sunset with courage, wisdom, and love. The villagers whispered tales of the hunter and the spirit woman, stories of bravery, devotion, and the power of love to conquer fear and shadow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support means the world to me, and I promise to always bring you the best stories. Stay tuned because there's always something amazing coming your way. Thanks again and see you in the next video. And in the heart of Okibo village, life continued. Human and spirit walking side by side, bound by choice, respect, and the enduring strength of love.